It's Friday the 17th of November. This is the Climate Alarm Clock. This week's headlines: a new loss and damage deal. Climate justice is on the agenda at COP and for Greta Thunberg too. And here at home, a new Friends of the Earth poll is a temperature check on Irish public opinion about climate. Hello and welcome to the Climate Alarm Clock, your Irish climate news podcast. I'm Dara Wynne and I'm joined today by Anna Pringle and Ciara Daly for the 5th episode of our 5th season of the podcast. How are you both doing?
Fantastic.
Great, Dara. It's a pity it's not May, then it could be 555, but...
Yeah. But still here anyways, and good to see you both.
It's a pity it's not 2005, and then it could be 5555.
And then we could sort out the climate stuff as well.
We probably should stop
There's been no climate change.
Yeah. And before we go any further, just a reminder that if you want to support the work we do on the podcast, you can do that on buymeacoffee.com/climate alarm. And thanks so much to Christine for the donation and the lovely comment. Keep up the good work. Always so grateful for the new insight and the little chuckle I get from listening. So, as we mentioned last episode, for the rest of the season, we're going to be joined by some very special guests, and we're trying to talk to people who aren't necessarily known for talking about climate change, and we're doing this just to normalize climate conversations. We know 70% of Irish people are worried about climate change, but loads of people never talk about it. So we're trying to normalize that one special guest at a time. And I am so thrilled that our special guest this week is Tadhg Hickey.
Sorry, guys, I'm just celebrating here in the background. I just love to hear my name. Sorry.
And if you don't know who Tadhg is, before we even get chatting to him, if you don't know who Tadhg is, you can have a listen to this sketch of his.
Here are some of my very top tips that we can all utilise if we're to truly work together to save our planet. Number 1, recycle. I know it's an obvious one, guys, but please do make sure that you are conscientious with your recycling. Number 2, eat in season. Small change with a very big impact. Number 3, wake the fuck up. There are mass forest fires, lethal floods and crops shrivelling all over the world, and not just in brown and black countries that rich people hate, that their ancestors looted, but in Western countries that they like and live in. And is this your fault because you forgot to put out your recycling bin last Tuesday night? No, it's the fault of the 1% who are just laughing at us. The rest of us are told that we must reduce our carbon dioxide emissions to 2 tonnes per person per year if we are to reach global targets. And yet Roman Abramovich used 34,000 tonnes last year to run his private gigantic yacht. And it's not just the direct impact of the super rich. It's the way in which they use political and cultural power to block effective change. Did you know that the idea of the personal carbon footprint was created by an oil company? They're trying to transfer blame to us, to make us consumers rather than citizens who might organise themselves and agitate for political change. So shove your carbon taxes up your arse. They just hurt poor people. What we need is wealth taxes. What we need to do is to take the yachts and jets off the billionaires. What we need to do is get rid of billionaires. What we need is a revolution. And number 4, tote bags.
That tote bags line gets me every time. Tadhg, you're so welcome to the Climate Alarm Clock.
You're so sincere in that tag. That's the best part, is the po-face, recycle. It's brilliant.
I like a tote bag myself as well, so...
Yeah, we might put one out. We'll put out a Tadhg Hickey Climate Alarm Clock collaborative tote bag.
Kick up the arse.
Maximum damage, not very useful. That'd be me. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, no, we're really delighted to have you. So, for anyone who doesn't know Tadhg, he's a comedian, a social commentator from Cork. Self-described as a comedian, actor, writer, musician, voiceover artist, political animal, ferret, alcoholic and general morale booster around Cork. His hard-hitting, satirical sketches annoy all the best people. So, Tadhg, really great to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit maybe about you know, what got you into the sketches in general, or what kind of has brought you to the topic of climate change?
Yeah, no problem. I can actually pretty much remember the moment, and it was kind of probably about last year, I'd say, to my eternal embarrassment, because as you might have gathered from the sketches, I'm obsessed with history. I'm obsessed with colonialism, particularly. But for some reason, and the reason is definitely due to the fact that I'm obviously an idiot, I never really made the connection between colonialism and the climate crisis. Like, it seems so obvious to me now, but I never made that connection before. You know, I looked at things exclusively through the prism of uh, the lack of justice and the lack of fair dealing and the lack of understanding and education about colonialism really affects us today. So it would bother me, for instance, that, you know, obviously I hammer the Brits a lot, but of course it's not a Brits problem. I think it's a European problem. It's an American problem. Um, like, even if you park the Brits for a moment, like, France has such an obvious problem with racism that it doesn't understand, because it doesn't understand or accept or even entertain discussing its colonial past. The horrors that went on in Algeria are no one's business. Like, I remember reading about the French colonial project and kind of thinking, I've been way too hard on the Brits. I feel terrible. Like, they can't even compete with the French. So I had all that kind of stuff going on, and I was doing sketches that I felt were kind of like, you know, speaking truths to power and do my little bit. And then I went to a left block festival on Inishmore last year, I think, or was it maybe the year before? But anyway, there was a lecturer there, Paul O'Connell, from, I think he's in the University of Manchester. He's a dub, like, he's pure ordinary dub, so I just kind of got on well with him. And but he just basically gave this lecture on the connection between capitalism, colonialism, and the climate crisis, and I literally felt like hitting my head off the desk. I was like, how has this never occurred to me before? How it maybe hasn't occurred to me before, though, is I think I had, and again, this is my issue, this is not the issue, this is my issue, I always thought the climate crisis thing was for middle class people. I grew up in an ordinary background where it felt like people who were concerned about animals and the climate, they were luxury items. I'm not making myself out to be Oliver Twist, but like, it felt like the people around me were trying to put food on the table, trying to look after their families and their own problems or whatever. And again, Paul was an ordinary dub, kind of saying it won't be middle class people that are going to lead the charge of this. It needs to be all of us, or not just middle class people. He's not saying that people aren't welcome to do their bit, but and then I kind of just, I suppose it all clicked then. I was just kind of thinking, yeah, sure, it's the poorest of the poor that are affected the most. It's the global south that are affected the most. It's the poor people in Britain and Ireland and America that are affected the most. So yeah, and I think it's just part of this kind of propaganda that we were talking about before we kicked off, that it kind of makes you feel, maybe that's the way the Tories do their business as well. They kind of say, like, it's the Greta Thunbergs, it's the Just Stop Oil people are kind of, they're not the man on the street in the way that Rishi Sunak is supposedly the man on the street. So that's a long garbled answer by basically saying, or trying to say, I can't believe I didn't see it before, but now that I do see it, I feel it should be connected to everything that I try to do, not just with the sketches, but with work generally. Because I suppose I'm concerned with injustice is the thing that would, like, motivate my comedy, bizarrely. Like, not like, there's not many laughs in that, most people would think, but I think there are. So with the satire going forward, I'd like to play my tiny little role in raising awareness, as I suppose is a kind of a weak way of putting it, for the climate crisis. But yeah.
Yeah, no, great. Thanks a million. I think I'm probably the opposite in that, like, I came to the climate stuff and then realized afterwards how it was connected to to all the other stuff. And I think that is the big thing, is making those connections, you know, like between all these kind of social justice issues, is like making those connections is what is actually going to bring about change. But yeah, I mean, it's great to see the sketches, and I was saying before we started that, you know, the satire cuts through a lot of the nonsense sometimes. Like, sometimes the messaging can be a lot more clearly communicated through little sketches than a news roundup can do.
I think so. And like, just one other quick thing on it. Like, I was just thinking, you know, you guys, and I say you guys as if I'm on a different team, but of course I'm not on a different team. That's the point of what I was trying to say at the start. But traditionally, I would have thought, like, I'm a I'm bringing awareness to the working class struggle and the colonial struggle guy, and you guys are climate guys, right? That's the way I would have thought. But what I'm really seeing lately is that like we're both sharing the same issue of trying to break through the propaganda and try to undermine the propaganda. So we'll probably get into it later, but like, you know, what's going on in Gaza at the moment, like, is an information war.
Yeah.
Not primarily when people are dying, but like the information war is what we're dealing with over here in the comfort of our own homes and Zooms and stuff. So, and I can see everything that I'm reading and looking at in the climate thing. It's the exact same issue. Like, can you
Absolutely.
break through the propaganda? You know, so it's, and those tools I think we can share those tools, and I suppose if you bring someone like me in who's looking at it through the prism of colonialism, that can only be a good thing. It's like trying to find,
Yeah.
like, how would you get someone excited by it?
Yeah.
And all someone had to say, if someone said to me 10 years ago, like, this is all founded on colonialism, I would have been a founding member of this podcast.
Well, you're welcome to come back anytime, Tadhg. But
but
I mean, it's
yeah.
a very interesting point, and even what's going on at the moment, what we're seeing is epic gaslighting,
Correct.
/ misinformation. But that's what we've been seeing in the climate movement for
I see that.
decades
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the oil
And that was-
companies
It was pretty
and
much
from governments.
Yeah.
But I actually think the gaslighting we're seeing at the moment is so blatant that it's losing its effectiveness, because people are going, because you can see from the people on the streets and so on that they're not buying it.
No,
Yeah.
it's even tough for satirists.
Yeah.
The level of gaslighting at the moment, like, I'm trying to make a sketch at the moment, lampooning the gaslighting, and everything I can think of has already been included in the thing
it's been
itself.
done. Yeah.
They've already done it. Like, they've already gaslit themselves. Like,
One thing that you
Wild.
said, I know we want to get into our stories, but one thing that you said, Tadhg, was that when you went to that talk and you were saying, oh my God, how did I not recognize the correlation between all of these things? Like, I'm an idiot. And actually on that, I think it's so important just to kind of come back on that and be like, actually, there's a very good reason that correlation wasn't so apparent. And I think that a lot of us go through those things of being like, oh my God, I'm an idiot that I didn't know this. And there's so many things. One of the things, it's so funny that you're like, this guy, like, adds this podcast, we're the group of climate guys, and I'm still in this group being like, I don't know how I'm here. So it's like
yeah.
that thing of like, you're constantly like finding out, oh, this thing that I thought was right is wrong now. And then you're having to be like, go through an emotional process. But it's really important, I suppose, just for anyone listening who might be kind of being like, anything that we've just said, they're like, what? I'm an idiot. Instead of like being like battering yourself emotionally about it, I think it's actually really important to remember that when you go off now into the world and you now have this new knowledge and you come across somebody else who doesn't have that new knowledge, to not be like, what an idiot, and to just kind of always remember,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Absolutely.
like last week I didn't know that. I think that's something that can actually be really difficult when you kind of dive into the realm of any kind of activism, but particularly the climate space. In my experience, very often people can be like, how did you not know that? And like, to just always remember that.
Listen,
Actually, a
Kira,
few
we've
weeks ago,
apologized.
I didn't know.
We know better now. We're sorry.
Yeah, but I want to remind you. And
that's
don't
very
put
true,
your
yeah.
tea bags in the compost. That's my final point.
No, that's very true.
All right. Will we jump in then to the first story? And we are going to very much be starting with the whole topic of climate justice in the lead up to COP28. So, Anna, do you want to get the ball rolling there?
Sure. As I know, we all know, COP28 is starting soon in the United Arab Emirates, of all places. And one of the big news ahead of COP28 has been a new loss and damage deal. So, Ciara, I know you're going to ask what's loss and damage.
I might even ask what's COP, but anyway,
You might
let's
even
start
ask
with the
what's
loss and
COP.
damage.
Okay, well, let's start with what's COP.
What's climate?
What's climate? Who are we? Where are we? COP28 is the conference of the parties, and it's where the countries from around the world get together to solve all of our climate problems. And COP28 is promising to bring the world together at a critical moment for global transformative climate action, which would be great if all the other COPs, because as you can tell, this is COP28, there have been 27 other COPs, it would be great if any of them had achieved that. But they've made some progress on some things. But one of the weird things about COP28 is that it's in the UAE, and the president of it is Dr. Al Jaber, who is a CEO of an oil company. So you've got a CEO of the Emirates Oil Company, who's now the COP president, which we talked about gaslighting, and that's just, it's hard to get your head around sometimes. And then one of the weird things on the website is they talk about a world of actionists. They can't bring themselves to say we need activists, but we need actionists. So apparently that's people like us. We're actionists now, So that's COP, and they're all getting together very soon for a lot of talking and hopefully some agreement. And then going back to loss and damage, so they reached an agreement a few weeks ago ahead of COP28, and actually Ireland played a leadership role in the negotiations. And so what loss and damage is, it's recommending a fund be put in place to help the most vulnerable countries and regions that are affected by climate change. So to compensate them for the loss and damage that they've experienced. And the idea, surprisingly, is that the richest countries would pay more to help the poorer countries. And, obviously that links back to what Tadhg was saying about colonialism, because the richer countries have benefited from the damage done to the poorer countries. So a new guideline was put in place, but the US stopped it at the last moment and wouldn't agree to it, which is, again, very common for the US to put a halt to some of these things. So there was some controversy about it. But it has actually been agreed finally. The US finally agreed that it would sign up to the loss and damage fund ahead of COP28. So that's kind of what's going on with that. And there's obviously a lot more to it than that as well.
Yeah.
But it's been a torturous set of negotiations to get to that point.
Yeah.
So you've read that line with a good bit of pessimism. Like, I can't tell if you think this is a positive or a negative story.
I think the loss and damage fund is really, really important, and it has to happen. But the bigger developing countries have been putting the brakes on it for a long time, and there was a fund agreed in Glasgow, I think, that never got spent. So it's really important.
And I think the other thing is that whether it's going to be sort of obligatory for the countries, how much they're actually going to have to give, because the idea underlying this is really rooted in climate justice. It's that the countries who have done the most damage by way of emissions are going to pay the countries being affected the most. And so in the lead up to it, like you said, Anna, that Ireland played a leading role, and in the lead up to it, Eamon Ryan was saying things like there should be a global levy on aviation and maritime companies should be paying. And he also said a global obligation should be put on fossil companies to invest in clean energy. So they're all the things that the Loss and Damage Fund should do. I think they're all good ideas. But as we always see with the COPs, is in the lead up or towards the end of COP or towards the end of these negotiations, the rich countries kind of put their foot down and say, well, we're going to do this, but we're not going to actually give you everything that you want. And then inevitably the global South countries say, well, something is better than nothing. And they kind of agree to it. So, I think we just have to wait and see. Yeah.
I just want to know from you guys the loss and damage, like how is it framed? So is it framed that, you are poor and we are rich, so out of some sort of moral duty we're going to like cover more of the costs? Or is it framed in a way of we stole from you, like, to build our wealth and our industrial revolution, so it's your money effectively? I think that's really crucial in terms of breaking down the propaganda as well. Because like if the average person on the street in America or here is like, oh my God, we've got to give those poor countries more money. Like, why don't they stop electing such corrupt governments and just sort themselves out? Whereas if it's like an open discussion about colonialism and, the looting that went on, then you see that it's a moral, it's more than a moral burden, it's a duty.
I love this question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to respond to that, they talk about donor countries, so
sweet Lord.
I think the thing that underpins all of this is this phrase of common but differentiated responsibilities. That's in the place of kind of just history or that kind of moral obligation. It's that talk of common but differentiated responsibilities. That's kind of what
does that mean?
It means that everyone has the responsibilities to.
We're all in this together.
Everyone
We're
has
all in this together.
Everyone has the responsibilities to reduce emissions and stop climate change, but the responsibilities are differentiated so that the countries that have done the most damage and the richer countries should be doing more.
Yeah.
So that is there, but it's not. It's not
But Ty, you meant to
overly
answer
linked to
your-
justice, and it's definitely not linked to colonialism.
Yeah. And even getting that much in there was a massive, massive battle. But just to give you a hint of how this has been thought about, the fund that they're talking about, the US has insisted that it be housed at the World Bank. So the developing countries are not happy about that at all for obvious reasons.
Not obvious reasons why.
Oh, sorry, Ciara. So the World Bank is associated with high interest loans to developing countries to control.
Okay.
So
And
there's a
the
whole lot
and
of
the president of the World Bank is appointed by the US.
yes. The World
Okay.
Bank is basically a US institution. So the US is hesitant to be part of loss and damage, and then wants the World Bank to administer it. So, it's definitely
Basically,
very
another way
much-
for the Western world to benefit off.
yeah.
Or
The
just to
loss
have
and
more
damage fund.
control,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
Okay, carry on, Anna, as you were.
So someone at Climate Action Network International, Harjeet Singh, said it's a somber day for climate justice when the World Bank is involved in this. So so it's, to answer your question, Ciara, loss and damage fund is really important, but it's not, it's kind of, let's see how it plays out, and will it really deliver anything for
Yeah.
the poorer
Yeah,
countries that need
So
it.
idea is good, execution questionable.
Yeah, exactly. Like, which is always the way,
Yeah.
that's the real frustration, is you can see, this is a thing that could make so much difference and so much impact. And then you kind of, then you start to see the pattern of, but it's probably not going to, because there are so many sort of people acting in bad faith and yeah.
But do you think, do you agree that it is very important for the public to understand why? So like,
Yes.
if you're someone just tells you, like, you just got to help out this lad up the road there, he's not doing well, like, you just got to go to his house and help him out all the time there, like, and you're like really resentful of it, because you're like, why doesn't he just get himself together? Why am I burdened with this lad? I don't know where I'm going with this now, by the way, guys. This could be a horrific analogy.
It's because your mansion is was stolen from him. That's why. Yeah.
Exactly. Like if you
Yeah.
don't, and I think that's my own petty grievance with that kind of stuff is, like, if you were to break through that aspect of the propaganda to really understand, but then that would need a kind of a global conversation about theft, like, and about looting, I suppose, which is going to be hard to have.
But I always think with those arguments, like, does it have to be that you rob someone? Like, can't you just be sound?
Yeah, no, but
be a
no,
decent-
but I do agree with Tadhg in that, like, you can just be sound, but then if we undergo hardship here, then you're like, okay, well, we've been sound to those for a while, but now we actually need the money for ourselves here.
Yeah.
Whereas the idea,
Oh yeah, no, I don't. Yeah.
whereas I think the thing with climate justice is, like, it's really simple on one level, So you'll say, like, we need climate justice. Climate justice is basically that the people who have done the least to cause this are being affected the most, and the people who have done the most to cause it are affected the least. And you say that, and if you'll say that sometimes to people in Ireland, they'll say, yeah, but sure, we're only a small country.
What
and
about
sure we
China?
have, and sure we
Yeah,
haven't,
what
and
about
sure we
China?
have, and sure we haven't done that much. Even though Ireland is second highest emitter in Europe, and per person, the second highest emitter in Europe, and so it's easy to get that message across in one stage, but it's also so easy for people to be like, yeah, but sure, that doesn't apply to me, or but sure, we're not a colonial country, so we weren't colonizers, so we haven't benefited, so it's also really easy for people to deflect.
So, like, if your average person on the street in Britain, for instance, got the understanding that, like, no, we're not helping out Indians because, they're back with their begging bowl and we've got to support them again now, like, we need to do it because we looted $45 trillion from them to fund the Industrial Revolution that kicked off this whole nightmare. Do you know, like, if that was generally understood, it might make a difference, I think.
Oh, I think so.
If you called it reparations as opposed to
I was just going to say that
alone, exactly, yeah. And actually, it was very interesting to see this week. Our hero Greta Thunberg was. I don't know if you saw this. There was a big protest in the Netherlands, and she was on stage really making it clear that there's no climate justice on occupied land. And she's been very brave about this. She invited a Palestinian and an Afghan woman on stage, shared some of her time with them to give them a voice, which is, just powerful, I think. But then she got attacked. I don't know if you saw that. A guy, somebody said, a middle-aged white guy jumped up on stage and said, "I'm here to talk about climate, not politics," and took the mic off
I think
her,
that
like,
impression is going to go down well. Thanks for that.
It's my best Dutch,
I actually thought it was pretty good.
accent.
I have to say, that's pretty good. From a guy who can't do accents, I was like, whoa, okay.
If you need a collaborator there, Ty.
I got some Dutch stuff actually in the vault, yeah.
I worked with Dutch people. But yeah, so he took the mic off her and said, "I don't want to talk about this," but she was very clear, and there's no climate justice on occupied land. So she's completely made that link back to what's going on in Gaza and in Palestine, which I think it's very powerful to hear from someone with the platform that she has.
Absolutely.
So
It's
actually,
like
if
what
you
we were
think
saying
about
in
it,
our...
there was.
Go on. No, go on, Kier, sorry.
Well, I was just going. It's like actually, if you think about it, there was 70,000 people there at that protest, wasn't there? So if you think there's people, like there's likely going to be people in the audience who, like we were saying at the start, didn't realize the correlation between climate justice and
Yeah, exactly.
social justice. So like that's actually really, really
Yeah,
impressive.
and getting away from that desire to like strip things, into their little boxes. I'm happy with this box, but I don't want that box and stuff. Like it's impossible to separate them, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and and like as I was saying at the start as well, I came to all these issues from the climate perspective. So like there would have been times where not that I would have gotten on stage and taken a microphone off a teenager, but there would have been times where I wouldn't have understood.
Glad to hear that, Dara. Stay away from the teenagers, okay?
We'll all rest well tonight. No.
But there would have been times where I wouldn't have understood the connection, for sure.
And it's great to see her evolution, because she's just becoming more radical as she goes on. She's just making all the connections that need to be made, and she's so willing to put herself on the line. And she's up in court, I think, this week in the UK after being arrested.
She's been
there.
charged. I saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's that case of the longer you're in it, the more you realize we actually can't, we can't solve any of the issues without solving all of them. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, then the next story is looking at a poll that came out that the Friends of the Earth carried out with Irish people, and the results were published in the last week or so. And some really interesting findings in there. So the big finding is that almost 2 in 3 people, 63% of people, are more worried about the impacts of climate change than they were 2 years ago. And by age, which is very interesting, the over 65s were the most likely to be more worried. And then the other big finding, which I find a bit confusing myself, 46% of people think the government is not doing enough fast enough to cut Ireland's pollution. But 27% think that the government is doing about the right amount, and 26% think that they are doing too much too fast. Which it kind of comes back to
they
that
answered
thing,
from their cars.
It kind of comes back to what you were saying about propaganda or media at the start, Tadhg. Like, because there's so much stuff in the media of like, oh, they're going to take away your SUVs, or they're going to do this, or they're going to do that, and they haven't actually done anything.
Yeah. But you could retitle that survey as like, how effective has the propaganda been?
Yeah.
Like that's what it really means, like, isn't it? Like, how scared are you after getting people? You're after getting a quarter of people quite scared. Fair play, like.
Yeah, exactly. And
but also the demographics in that question are brilliant, because students and younger people are way more critical, while people over 65 are least likely to voice a criticism, and women are more critical as well. So women are coming out very strongly in this, actually, and throughout the survey the differences as being more pro climate action. So it's quite interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, it just shows, that I can't get over that 26%. I think.
Yeah, why you said you're confused by those stats? Why?
Because a quarter of people think that the government are doing too much too fast when it comes to climate. which
But that's the Fine Gael voters. I mean, there's Fine Gael and some Fianna Fáil. Like there's 20%.
yeah, but like I'd
No.
I'd love to find out like what are we doing? Like what are these things that we are doing?
It's the war
that's
on
too-
cars, Dara.
But you're coming
Yeah.
at this from the idea that everyone knows as much as you do or is interested.
Yeah, but
And like
no,
for me that makes sense.
but
like, I think that
but
makes
can you
sense.
give me an example of what has been done that is too much too fast? That's
But
my
that's you're coming at it from there actually looking at this logically.
I know.
It's the way in which it's framed as well, isn't it? So like, say if there's an independent article that's kind of doing the rounds and it's framed in a way of, you know, they're going to take your cars off you, or, you know, doesn't George Monbiot talk about this kind of thing of framing it that everyone's trying to take stuff from you rather than the opportunities?
Yeah.
So I can believe that the quarter of people have, as you say, like, I'd love to drill into what it was exactly. I'd imagine that it's some article that then became an episode of Joe Duffy where people are talking about, like, look, things are moving too fast, they're taking everything away from us. There'll be a portion, not all as well, but there'll obviously be a portion of farmers that will feel that way, I'm sure. So if you combine the farmers' aggravation with someone saying, oh, look, they're just taking all the stuff that you're just killjoys.
Yep.
Also, I think it feeds into this thing that you're getting in the UK at the moment, which is a kind of a, you know, the culture war has now subsumed the climate thing as well. So it's like, you know, that all nuance is dead. Like, so you're either over here is like business, Israel, you know, and then over here is like Palestine, wasters, hippies, climate stuff. So it's a kind of it's a sweep of dismissal, like, you know, that you're just over here. It's just more woke nonsense, really, is the climate stuff, I think. And I think that's feeding into Ireland a little bit as well, unfortunately, that kind of thinking.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying there, that actually it's that 26%, you know, there should be a lot of attention being paid to that and trying to figure out why that is like that. Because as you say, like, it has probably become a culture war thing. It has become that kind of Joe Duffy sensationalism, and that really needs to be dealt with in like in a sort of progressive way, but also, like, you know, people need to understand, I think, and we need really clear communication on how bad things are going to get, you know, because in the context of how bad things are going to get, we can't do too much too fast. You know, that would be my view on it. Really interestingly, then, from the same poll, they were asked to rate each party leader out of 10, where 10 is strongly prioritizing the response to climate change. And the results are as follows. So this is how people rated the leaders of each party out of 10 in terms of prioritizing climate change. Eamon Ryan, 6.5. Holly Cairns, 5.3. Micheál Martin, 4.9. Richard Boyd Barrett, 4.7. Ivana Bacich, 4.7. Leo Varadkar, 4.6. And Mary Lou MacDonald, 4.1. I have to say personally that the Irish public have sort of sided with me in that I very regretfully say that of the leaders of the three big parties, Micheál Martin is the one who I feel gets climate the most, as much as it pains me to say it. But I think I think that has been borne out in this poll as well.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, they're all pretty bad. I mean, you know,
yeah, but which I think is correct.
I mean, in the poll, I mean, between the difference between 4.9 and 4.6 is, I don't know if it's statistically meaningful or not, but and it's interesting to see Mary Lou MacDonald at the very bottom, but I think it does reflect that, you know, what comes out of Sinn Féin in terms of you're not hearing much from them about climate change.
Yeah,
I'm so surprised at that, though. That, like, I'm not surprised because I think she's good or that Sinn Féin are particularly strong in it. That's not the issue at all. But because they're so savvy, you know, like, the one thing that they are is so savvy, and they've acquired this youth vote that's so tenuous. You know, like, there's nobody voting for Sinn Féin, I would say 18 to 22 or 3, that has, like, an inbuilt absolute passion for a united Ireland. They're voting in their 20s for housing.
Yeah.
But, like, it's mostly young people, correct me if I'm wrong, it's mostly young people that would that could lead the charge of this. So why they're not making it but again, I think that comes back again to some people are better or worse at breaking through the propaganda, and maybe Sinn Féin are at the point where the climate thing is very strong in people's minds at the moment in terms of the propaganda is very strong, so they're not going to jump onto that ship just yet. When the tide turns, they will jump.
Yeah,
I
You
hope
know?
so, but I
yeah.
mean, 70% of the youth in this survey have it as a high priority for themselves. So, if Sinn
Yeah.
Féin want to consolidate that base, they really should be looking at it more.
Yeah.
And they have some very good people, like Lynn Boylan is very good
Yeah,
at climate.
Lynn is amazing. I know Lynn very well. She's brilliant.
Yeah, but I mean, but as a party, they're definitely not emphasizing it as much.
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
it does. It
I
and
agree.
it feels. I agree with you. It feels like a missed opportunity, because obviously they do. They would really have to cut through. And that is the hard thing about being strong on climate, is you have to work really hard to just establish this is an important issue and this is an emergency, because you're swimming against the tide even trying to get that out. So it takes really, really good messaging to actually be able to get a strong climate message out that people can get behind. But I just think from their perspective, it will be, it probably feels too risky, like you were saying, Tadhg, at this moment in time for them to take it on, because it could backfire if they get the messaging wrong.
I think what they've always struggled with as well, I know a good few people in the party, like particularly in the north, and it's such a melting pot of different backgrounds and ideas and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
They're trying to keep so many different factions together. Like if they also get in on the climate change thing, as it'll be seen, then you'll be back into the 25% will grow, I think, because it'd be like, oh, Sinn Féin are hammering it now as well. It all comes down, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
doesn't it? Like to framing it, like when you were saying earlier, framing it in a way of like, this is not okay, it's a crisis. We all need to be active, but that's not a bad thing. Like we're trying to save the place that we live. It's the framing
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the story is so important. Like that's what the great propagandists they do so well, unfortunately, is that they frame the story as if like people are taking things from you, as
Yeah, yeah.
opposed like trying to
And they
save
make
your
it
fucking
simple,
life.
yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that it's like our lives should be better after it. After the change,
Yeah.
we should have cleaner air, healthier
Exactly, yeah,
healthier
yeah.
diets, more equal society. Less
Less poverty in
billionaires
the
and
global south, like
Yeah.
and on that, actually, I think the one person who I think is totally, or who I totally disagree with their placement on that rating would be Richard Boyd Barrett. I think generally speaking, people before profit are quite strong on climate.
Yeah.
Have brought
I thought you were
forward.
going to say your friend Leo, Dara.
No, definitely not. I think I don't think he's. I would have put him lower.
Definitely, yeah.
I don't think there's much between himself and Mary Lou.
No.
Just maybe Leo gets more opportunities to talk about it, where he
Yeah.
has to talk about
I
it,
was just gonna
and
say,
someone
yeah.
has written a speech for him about it. But I really,
But he's been, he's actively against climate action. Like he's the one
course.
parroting Ryanair's talking points and, calling for more flights through Dublin Airport and so on. I mean, and he actively comes out against it. So how he even got to 4 out of 10, I don't know. But
Totally, like Leo's business first. Like he's
Yeah.
absolutely business
I
first.
think
And you
Dara
can't be
voted for
business-
him like 6 times.
Are you good buddies, Dara? Yeah?
well, I was saying before we recorded, Tadhg, we have
sensitive topic time.
I basically think he's more ignorant than malicious, and Anna thinks the opposite. But
I think it's both.
It is both. It's just a question of how much of each. But to the point that a listener actually called me the worst thing I've ever been called in my life. Called me a Fine Gaeler there a couple of weeks ago.
Yo. No, man, I'm called a lot of things online, but I wouldn't take that.
It might even have been a listener related to me, so was wondering.
I think he's more malevolent than ignorant, I have to say. But the big thing about him is, I think he shows the mask drops a lot, and it's an ideological thing with Leo. I always think. So like you can see when you get to the nitty gritty that he kind of loathes the poor, for instance. Because he's been brought up to kind of believe that he's just worked hard. So why doesn't some lad whose parents have passed away and is addicted to heroin when he's 16? He just needs to work harder as well.
But
I
he
always
just
think that
doesn't
with Leo.
understand. Yeah, he's like
He just doesn't understand.
recently.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard somebody talking about how he used to think there was no class issues in Ireland.
Yeah,
Genuinely
yeah,
didn't think there were
yeah.
any class issues.
It's
you know.
always people who are middle class say there's no class in
I know,
Ireland.
yeah. Check your privilege.
Um,
Coming back to the Friends of the Earth poll, though, I think a couple of really positive things in it. One is that the public are very clear on supporting a pause on data centres, 58% positive on that, which I think is really good.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Yeah, and then the other one I thought was hilarious is they asked about, the way activists have been deflating SUV tires to make the point about climate.
Yeah.
So they asked them
Yes.
about that. And so 1 in 5 people said that deflation of SUV tires would make them less likely to buy an SUV. And then 1 in 10 said it would make them more likely. So I think it's still a win though, right? Because then
yeah, I found that one hilarious as well.
although the people saying that they're less likely are probably people who wouldn't be buying an SUV
Yeah,
I think
anyway.
a more
but,
interesting question for that would be like, do you agree with it or disagree with it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other
I'd
one
like to know the
actually,
answer to that.
in terms of cutting through the propaganda, was remember the EPA deleted a tweet about eating
Yeah.
less meat after
Yes.
criticism from the IFA. And 52% of people said the EPA were wrong to do that,
Yeah.
that they shouldn't have deleted
Yeah.
their tweet, as opposed to 40% who said they were right. And 2 in
Yeah.
3 people support revising the food pyramid to take into account climate and environmental impacts. So I think that
With
that
women
shows,
being way ahead on that as well.
Mm,
Like 4-1 compared to the men.
interesting.
Yeah.
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 Which shows, that like people, despite all the kind of misinformation that's out there, a lot of people do know and do understand, despite
And think
the
for
fact.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which just shows if if the media were doing their job on it.
And for all the ills of social media, I think social media plays a big part in that.
It does.
And should play an even bigger part, because you just can't rely on the media at the moment, like the mainstream media and RT News and stuff. But social media will always, if you go looking for it, will always have the alternative.
Yeah. And you hear direct voices directly from scientists or
Yeah.
activists or people on the ground. That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
All right, shall we move on then to the big stories of the week that we didn't have time to look at in depth?
Yeah, and so one is the energy security review has just been published, long awaited. The good news is it.
To long awaited.
Well, it has been long awaited by me, Ciara.
God, I've been waiting.
It's been about a year,
Can't wait for the weekend.
It's like
Finally.
Christmas has come, Gosh, what have I turned into? Jesus. But the good news about it is that it does really emphasize the commitment to renewable energy. However, the bit of bad news that is in there is that there are plans to add new LNG to the mix as part of our so-called energy security. So they're talking about a floating LNG terminal being added, which is very disappointing, I think, for a lot of people because LNG is really, really polluting. The good news is it's not commercial LNG. It'll be state-owned in some shape or form. But still, it's not great to be adding new fossil fuel infrastructure at this point.
So Anna, is that kind of last or a few weeks ago we were talking about how Shannon LNG, the gas terminal in Shannon, was refused planning permission. Is this
Yes.
just kind of a workaround to that?
No, that was a
it's not.
commercial facility. Now that's being appealed to the High Court, and in light of this security review, they might have a case to say, why shouldn't we be able to do it if you're adding LNG?
Yeah.
If the state is adding LNG, I don't know. But no, that was commercial, and the state has been clear that we're not going to have commercial LNG. That's what Eamon Ryan has been saying. But we're still going to have LNG, which is, no matter whether it's commercial or publicly owned, it's still highly polluting and arguably not necessary for energy security. And the reason for it is they're afraid, since the Nord Stream pipeline was blown up, and we get our gas through 2 pipelines from the UK, which are pretty secure. But it's to allow for, if anything happens, that we have a storage facility. If anything happens to those pipelines, yeah.
All right.
So I think probably not necessary, and a shame to see LNG being brought to Ireland for the first time.
Yeah, for sure. Because there was a study, I don't know if we mentioned that, but there was a study that came out a couple of weeks ago that found that fracked gas, a lot of which would be what the LNG that we'd be getting in Ireland would be, is just as polluting as coal. When you
it's
take
terrible.
into account the life cycle of it, all the emissions that come out through fracking, all the emissions that come out in transport, it's just as bad as coal.
And that's something we'll have to watch out for, because right now there's a moratorium on fracked gas coming into Ireland. But I don't know if you're bringing LNG in from the US, for example. I don't know how you can tell whether it's fracked or not. It's all gas by the time it gets here, So, so that's definitely one to watch. See how that starts to shape up.
It's some good news. Is it good news that in China, emissions are set to peak there next year, and then are anticipated to fall? So basically, because China is leading the way with renewable energy, because they have so much by way of increased renewable energy capacity, that even despite the fact that they're opening new coal plants over there, it's anticipated that their emissions will peak next year and start coming down thereafter. For me, it's kind of, I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, I mean, the renewable stuff there is amazing. Now, maybe there's a lot to be said for having an authoritarian government that just, gets on with things. I don't know. But they have their investment in renewables is phenomenal. Like the solar installation that they've put in this year is twice the total solar capacity of the US.
Wow.
Just this year, just what they put in this year. And so, I mean, you have to think that China plays a long game, long-term strategy, and you have to think they are positioning themselves for the future, and they will, be on top of the game on all this stuff. So it's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I think if that does happen, and if their emissions do start coming down from next year, that really does put the onus on other countries.
I was just going to make yet another point about propaganda there, which is that I think we're built as well to view everything that China says or does with suspicion, because we get such American propaganda here that we can't really trust them, whatever. And to go back to the colonial thing again, India and China are creating a lot of emissions now from what I'm reading, and the West is kind of, again, to use Vijay Prashad's Indian academic, I love his phrase, is the West is wagging the finger again, but all we've done is just export our emissions over there, because they're making American shit for them now, and then the American consumer is buying, and then wags the finger at them. So to be honest with you lads, I'm trying to get in with the Chinese anyway, because there's a big market over there,
You're brushing up on your Chinese.
I'm not going to say anything against them, so let's move on.
Geez, next thing you'll be saying good things about Russia, Tadhg.
No, I won't. I won't go that
paying
far.
Your bill here?
I won't go that far. You'll need to speak to Mick Wallace about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's move on. The next story. Do you want to lead in it there, Anna? Because I haven't seen this before.
The Glenn Peters. Yeah. So it's kind of related to the China and the structural changes there. But a leading climate scientist, Glenn Peters, he was pointing out that natural gas demand. So we were just talking about putting more gas in Ireland, but the demand for gas has halved in 5 years. So as they look ahead to 2040, compared to when they were looking at it 5 years ago, they're seeing the demand for gas being half of what it was, which I think that's very positive. And hopefully that you start to see some momentum building on that, and we keep reducing that.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that is a great one to see. And do you want
move on to actions?
Yeah. So then, just before we go, any actions or events coming up that people want to talk or plug?
Tadhg, I know you had one you wanted to mention.
Yeah, so I would just urge anyone listening, maybe I don't need to really, because I think, again, propaganda thing, everyone's kind of seeing through a lot of the propaganda and realise that what's going on in Gaza at the moment transcends politics, and it's just a humanitarian nightmare, and anything that we can do to support the victims of that at the moment, I think we should do. I'm doing a fundraiser on my social media pages, but I don't give a shit if you support me, just support something. And if you can't do it financially, it's much more important actually to just hit the streets. So I think there's a national demo coming up there's demos, local demos every Saturday. And amplify, use your voice, because I think I saw a tweet during the week that really struck me. It was like, if you ever want to know what you would have done during civil rights or slavery or any other genocide, this is what you'd be doing right now, like whatever it is you're doing. So we won't have this moment in history back again, and people are depending on us. So get up off your arse if you can.
Yeah, and so this is going out on Friday, and so tomorrow, the 18th, we've got rallies around the country at 1 p.m. Dublin, there's a big one planned for the Garden of Remembrance. Belfast, 1 p.m. Writers Square, and your hometown Cork, Tadhg, 1 p.m. at Grand Parade, and there's one in Drogheda as well, and there's others all around the country. So find the one close to you and get out there if you can.
I'll actually be at the Dublin one if anyone's interested in joining me. Yeah, I've got a Cork banner representing Cork, so if there's any people who've defected...
I don't know about that, Tadhg. That's a bit of a stretch.
There's lots of people in Cork. There's lots of people from Cork stuck in Dublin, you see. So if you get behind my banner, I lead you all the way home at the end.
Tadhg, you've got a new memoir that's out, haven't you?
Oh, thank you, Ciara.
Can you tell people about it? I think we better get you to plug it before we let you off.
Thanks a million. Yeah, it's a memoir about my alcoholism. It's called A Portrait of the Piss Artist as a Young Man. And it's in all decent bookstores at the moment, and you can get it online as well. So thanks very much for plugging it. It's an amazing Christmas
It's been getting some very good reviews as well, Tadhg. So congratulations on that.
Well, I got a good review in the Irish Times, which is bananas to me. Yeah,
that's propaganda now, Tadhg.
They're trying to suck
That's
you in.
all that work
Tadhg.
you've been doing with China.
If they're writing something positive about me, guys, it's got to be a good book.
And then there's one more event there.
So there's an event, the She Climate one, is it?
The women one.
Yeah. So there's an event, actually an online event for anyone who can't make anything. It's going back to climate, that old thing. And it's run by an organisation called She Climate. So basically what it's doing, it's looking at the what is it looking at? So it's kind of, it's bringing women together so we can kind of bring female-led solutions, come up with female-led solutions for the climate crisis. So we'll put the link to all the information of that in the bio.
Great.
Go on, the women.
Great stuff. All right, that is it for this week's episode. Tadhg, thanks so much for joining us. It was great to have you.
Yeah, it was great, Tadhg. You'll have to come back again.
Love it. Yeah,
it was lovely.
Thanks for having me, guys. Pleasure.
And Ciara and Anna, great to have you as always.
Dara, we saw you.
It was great to have you too, Dara.
And
hey,
that is...
do us a promise and don't be stealing mics off any little girls this weekend, okay?
And that is
the age profile's getting younger. It was a teenager at the
start. All right, we better finish this up now. That is it for this week. If you don't already follow us on social media, you can follow us on Twitter at The Climate Alarm and on Facebook and Instagram at Climate Alarm Clock. That is it for this week. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I'm here to talk about climate, not politics.